In today's video, we're going to be discussing Katherine Knight, the Australian female Hannibal Lecter. Y'all traumatized me with this one, y'all. Oh my goodness. But before we get into it though, I do want to let you guys know that this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please remember to be kind to everybody, everywhere, in your everyday life, in your home, in the grocery store, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance on hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. You guys, Monday's video with Nicole Kessinger was so good. I loved reading your comments. First of all, thank y'all for sharing what you guys did last weekend with me. I loved reading them. So many people did so many different things. Some people stayed home. Some people passed out candy. Some people didn't. Some people went trick-or-treating. Some people went trick-or-treating. It was awesome. Thank you guys for sharing that with me. Also, I'm going to do another video. I'm going to do a part 2 on Nicole Kessinger because I forgot quite a few things that I think is really important. And I have a whole new Nicole Kessinger theory after reading y'all's comments. So you guys hang with me on that. Now, today's true crime video. Y'all stressing me with this one. Holy cow. Katherine Knight, the first female in Australia that was sentenced to life. Over there in the paperwork, they actually put never to be released. They're like, never. Stamped it, approved it, tattooed it on your face, and put it on the walls like she ain't never getting out. Y'all, if y'all have not heard this story, I'd never heard it until y'all started sending it to me. Lord, we're going to tell you guys the story today. Then I'm going to ask some questions that I want to know from you guys and give you guys my opinion. And I'm also going to tell y'all what she's doing now. Okay, so we're going to go through the whole shebang bang. Let's do it. Mary Katherine Knight, who is famously known as Katherine Knight, was born October 24th, 1955. She was a Scorpio, but we ain't gonna talk about that. I see y'all Scorpios out there. Anyways, she was born into like a horrific family dynamic just from the get-go. Her mother actually had 4 boys before she gave birth to her, and she was married to her boy's father. And then she got caught having an affair with her husband's friend from work. And that guy's name was Ken Knight, who ended up later being Katherine's father. So mom had 4 kids. Her husband's co-worker, which was her friend, she starts having an affair with. Now, in this town over in Australia that they lived in was a small town. Everybody talked. It was a conservative town. Everybody was real uppity. So everybody was talking about her husband, everything. So it basically ran Katherine's mom. Her name was Barbara, and Ken out of town. So Barbara and Ken left. Now, when Barbara left, she left 2 of her boys with her ex-husband and 2 of her boys with her aunt. So she just left her kids and ran away with this other man. I don't understand it, but let's keep going. Barbara then later eventually ended up having 4 more kids with Ken Knight. 2 of those kids were a pair of twins, twin girls, and one of those was Mary Katherine Knight. She was the younger twin, okay? Now, Ken, for her growing up with her father and her mother, he was super abusive. He was an alcoholic. Like, everybody knew him to be just a complete butthead. He would allegedly, according to Katherine's mom, he would force himself physically, you guys know what I mean, intimately, on her up to 10 times a day, every single day. And sometimes he was even like aggressive in that way, the intimate way, in front of the kids. So the kids saw this like physical aggression in their household all the time. Well, because of that, Barbara decided to make her 2 little twin girls her best friend and tell them all of her personal business. Now, I'm not trying to harp too much on Barbara because she was a victim, obviously, of abuse. We don't know what all Barbara did. Now we'll get to her a little bit later, but we know she was a victim of abuse. But I personally do not believe in making telling your kids your personal business. Like, you need to go to a therapist, you need to go to whoever else, but don't put that on your children. But she did. She even went as far as like telling her kids her intimate things that she did and how she would do certain things, like just completely inappropriate to talk to your child about. While Barbara was telling her twin little girls, Katherine being one of them, very detailed stories about her intimate escapades with their father, she would also tell her little girls how much she hated men. Like she hated them, she despised them. And Katherine grew up like hearing this, and this was her mom and her father in her home life. Later it came out that Katherine said that she was abused by many of her family members in that same way, in the, the very, and any abuse is inappropriate, but you guys know what I'm getting at, that type of way. Now, Katherine did say her father was not one of them, but she was touched in very inappropriate ways her whole life growing up. And I think till she said she was about 11 years old. Because of that, Katherine was really like introverted and kind of like a loner and stuff. She would have these like outbursts where she would just go into a fit of rage, but for the most part, she was just like a loner and stayed to herself. It was said that Katherine only trusted 2 people as a little girl, and one was her twin sister and the other was her uncle Oscar, who actually ended up taking his own life. So, he was gone. Because of the things family members did to her and in front of her with their father and all of that, Katherine grew up hating men as well. Like just hating them, disgusted by them. In school, Katherine was described as a pleasant girl by some people. Now, this is where it gets confusing because I really went down the rabbit hole, and some people said she was a pleasant girl. She earned awards. She would just have like these fits every now and then or whatever, but for the most part, she was a good girl. Then there was other people that said she was a bully. They said that she would bully kids that, were bigger than her. But nevertheless, she ended up dropping out at 15 and she could not read or write. Now, I have so many questions as why she made it to 15 and could not read or write. Like we start teaching our kids that at a very, very young age, not 15. But nevertheless, she dropped out at 15 and she started working at like the sewing factory over there, and she was sewing stuff. Now, as time went on, Katherine was known to get into very toxic relationships. Like she was attracted to, if you look at the track record, men who were alcoholics and stuff like that. And she was in abusive relationships. From what we know, though, she was the abuser most of the time. She eventually landed what she said was her dream job at the local meat slaughterhouse factory, whatever you guys want to call it. Now, this slaughterhouse in her town that she was living in was like the heartbeat of the town, it was like where their main source of income came from. Like all of the successful people worked at this slaughterhouse. So when she got this job here, she really felt like she was winning at life. And everybody said she was excellent at her job. She loved her job working at the slaughterhouse. Other employees said that she would go around like where the cows were hanging upside down and pigs and stuff like that, and she would nick the animals just to watch them bleed. But that she enjoyed it. She enjoyed watching them bleed. Well, because of her hard work and her passion for her job, she was quickly promoted and she was given her own set of butcher knives. Now, these were the set of butcher knives that she would use at her job to skin the animals and to remove organs and cut meat up and stuff like that. What she loved to do, but she would take these knives home at nighttime and she had them hanging over her bed. And people would say, like, why do you have all of these like big, huge, sharp butcher knives that you use every day hanging above your bed? And she says, well, you never know when I'm going to need them. She loved those knives. Those were like a trophy to her. Now, going on about her abusive relationships that she got into and her very toxic relationships, her first marriage was in 1974. Now, it is said that she convinced this man to marry her. Like, she convinced him. He didn't even really want to marry her. And then once they got married, he was so sloppy, tore up the whole entire time during the day of their wedding. And then that evening, they went to go be intimate on their wedding night, and they only were intimate 3 times. And when her husband fell asleep on their wedding night, sloppy drunk, tore up the whole shebang, she got so infuriated that they didn't do it at least 5 times or more, because Katherine's mother, Barbara, had told her that she did it 5 times on her wedding night. And she had heard all these other rumors of like, I did it 10 times and this. So she was looking at her husband like, we only did it 3 times. So she started strangling him in his sleep, and he woke up to her strangling him. He didn't leave her though after that. I'm pretty sure that was a very unexpected way to wake up. But Barbara, Katherine's mom, had actually told her husband at some point that you better watch out for that one. She'll kill you. She's got a couple screws loose. Now, Barbara didn't have the best reputation either. There was a story of one of the guys that Katherine was in a relationship with. Him and his mom came to Barbara's house to pick her up at one point. And Katherine and her guy at that time had been arguing. So when him and his mother showed up in the car, Barbara, Katherine's mother, beat her to the car, went out to the car and started strangling Katherine's man at the time. And she came out and punched her mom, knocked her mom out. It was a whole hot mess. Her boyfriend or her husband at that time, his mother was completely shocked. She had never seen people act like that, but this was just a regular old Tuesday for Katherine and Barbara. I mean, they was just, bopping each other upside the head for no good reason. Now, Katherine and her first husband stayed together for 10 years. They had some kids together. He cheated on her. He left her. There was even a rumor that he had left her one time and got another woman pregnant and all of this. And Katherine was just like literally not holding it together very well. People in her town said that at one point she took her 2-month-old baby and put it on the railroad tracks while a train was getting ready to come. The train hadn't come yet, but she left her 2-month-old baby on the railroad tracks and was waiting for the train to come. And allegedly somebody else in the town had seen the baby and came over and got the baby. Now, there was a bunch of different stories that I heard about that, but could you imagine? That is, holy cow, it's so scary. There was even another time that like the people in this small town that she lived in said she was walking down the street with one of her babies in a stroller, and she was just like, just yanking the stroller and in her own little world, to the point that the people in the town thought the baby was going to fly out of the stroller and into the streets. They ended up calling the cops, and they came and got Katherine and put her in a mental institution at that point. She was then diagnosed with like postpartum depression, and she spent a few months in the psychiatric ward. And there, the nurses said that she was telling them that she was going to kill the mechanic that fixed her husband's car because his car was fixed. That's how he left her. So when she got out, she was going to kill the mechanic. They ended up getting a divorce, and Katherine continued on her path of toxic relationships, with her mainly being the most toxic person. Now, I'm not saying that these guys didn't do anything, because actually her first husband, who was also, like I told you guys, known to be an alcoholic, allegedly, like, he was known to like fight in the bars and do all kinds of stuff. And maybe he had met his match with Katherine. But nevertheless, the story's about Katherine, so we're going to focus on her, but not saying that the other guys were innocent. So another boyfriend that Katherine had, she got so violent and angry and jealous that she took his 2-month-old puppy, you guys, and sliced that baby's right there in front of him and killed that puppy like...
And cut his dog's throat.
Was the dog dead?
It was a clean cut, they said.
Oh my gosh, like that is a sign. I mean, if nothing else was a sign, holy cow. And then with this boyfriend, there were so many things. She had hit him with an iron one time. She busted him in the head with a frying pan, split his head open. She cut up all of his clothes. Now, at one point, this guy called the cops to her, but she was able to woo him and talk him into dropping the charges. And he did. He ended up going back to her, and they would, fight and break up, which is just so crazy, because typically you hear about women doing this and going back into an abusive relationship, but men do this too. I'm talking to my men, you guys, we're going to get to this more at the end, but like, he went back to her. They ended up having her 3rd child. So she had a baby by this guy, but then he ended up finally leaving her when she tried to kill him with a pair of scissors by stabbing him. He actually said that he was going to work or taking leave or something one day, and he just disappeared, never came back. Katherine later got pregnant by another dude. She ended up staying with him for 3 years, and then during this time, so now she's got her 4th kid. Okay, she's got her 4th baby. She's got 3 different baby daddies or whatever, and she's with this dude for 3 years that she just had her 4th kid with, and she meets a guy named John Price. So she meets John Price, and she starts having an affair with John Price while she's with the father of her 4th child. Now, she meets John Price when she's out at a nightclub one night, and they just hit it off. Now, John Price was very well known in his town. He was a single father who raised his kids. He was a hardworking dude. He was also known to be a heavy drinker and alcoholic, but he was the type of guy that worked all day long, came home, pulled his boots off, had his kids running around, sitting outside in front of a bonfire, throwing a couple back until he passed out and went to work the next day. Everyone loved John Price. He had 3 kids, okay? One of them was a 2-year-old little baby, and the 2-year-old stayed with his ex-wife, but he had the 2 olders with him. Now, John knew about Catherine's violent past, but in like her reputation in town, and all of John's friends was like, you've got to be kidding me, brother. Like, this one, out of all of them, this one right here. And he was just a sweet guy. I don't know, he liked her. Now, Katherine was known to be very good in the hay, in the sack, you know what I mean? So in 1995, Katherine packed her bags, packed her children up, and moved in with John Price and his 2 kids. Now, his 2 kids liked her. For whatever reason, she was good to them, or, whatever. They really liked her. Now, John had been at his job for 17 years, and he made really good money. Nice house, supporting the whole family, just, doing good. And in 1998, which was 3 years after they had gotten together, Katherine was really pressuring John to marry her, like pressuring him. And he was like, John Price was like, I don't see why we need to get married. I have an ex-wife. I've been married before. You've been married before. It didn't work out. Why complicate things? Like, we're happy. You're living here. Like, everything is good. Like, don't want to get married. Because of that, she went into a fit. Katherine did, getting all angry. She went snooping through stuff, and she found John Price's will. And in his will, he was leaving everything to his ex-wife and his kids. I would assume he's leaving everything to his ex-wife because of his kids, right? Like, somebody's got to be in control of it. I don't know. That's just what I would think if I saw it. But nevertheless, so she tried to talk John Price into changing his whole entire will. He's like, I'm not going to do it. Like, this is for my kids. I'm not going to do it. She got so mad, you guys. She videotaped, like, he had these, like, first aid kits and stuff from his job that had been thrown into the trash. They were outdated. You know how, like, certain things, if they don't meet all the requirements or of your company, then they're no good. Well, he had pulled them out of the trash. There were some first aid kits. She videotapes them, sends them to his boss, and he got fired. His boss did not want to fire him. He had been there 17 years. But he had to. So he lost his job. And because of that, even more people, like John's friends, are like, why are you with her? She just cost you your career of almost 20 years. He got mad, though. He did kick her out. But not long after that, he took her back. Yes, he did. She weaseled her way back into his life, back into his children's lives. And John just, all of his friends were just like falling off. They couldn't stand to sit around and watch their friend be used and literally abused and taken advantage of by this woman. They're like, why do you keep going back to her? And when he went back to her, the fighting continued. They fought constantly. When Katherine moved back in and the whole fighting and everything, she tried to get control of his house. The house that he had bought, he had paid for, that his kids lived in. She wanted control over it. And when she could not get full control over it, she started accusing his kids of touching in an inappropriate way her kids. She was going around the whole town. She made it this big whole entire thing that his kids were doing these inappropriate things to her kids. Now, I don't know for sure that because I wasn't there, but like, if she was lying, whoa. In 2000, they got into a terrible, terrible argument, and she ended up stabbing John. She stabbed him in his chest. It was terrible. And on February 29th of 2000, John went to the courts to try to get a restraining order against her. Now, the courts were like, you're going to wait 3 weeks. You got to go in front of a judge, that whole entire thing. And he was like, you don't understand. Like, I'm scared of this woman. She has already stabbed me. I need a restraining order. I need my kids to be protected. I need, me to be protected. And of course the courts was like, it's okay. We'll see you in 3 weeks. You can show your case to the judge. John started telling his coworkers, he started telling all of his neighbors everything that happened, that he was really concerned that she may do something, try to hurt the kids or whatever. And he was waiting for this restraining order. Now, he went to work on this particular day, and he was telling everybody at work that, like, I really think she's going to kill me. If I don't show up at work tomorrow, or if I don't show up at work, I'm dead. That's the only reason. Because he was known for not only being a loyal employee, and, he had to get another job because she got him fired from his other one, but he was early. Like, he was the first one there every day, hardworking guy. He's not going to just not show up. So they knew that he was being truthful when he said that. His friends and his coworker begged him, do not go home tonight. Do not go home. And he was like, if I don't go home, like, she could do something to my kids. So I have to go home. So this day he goes, and instead of going directly home, he actually goes to his neighbor's house. He drinks a few beers. He hangs out with them. He goes over to his house, and he realizes that his kids are gone. Okay. She had been there, and she had sent his kids to spend the night at their friends. Katherine had been out that day planning a very, very interesting dinner. She went and got her a new black nightie lingerie, and she knew what was going down on this night. So John goes home. He watches a little TV. He falls asleep before 11 o'clock. Katherine shows up. Is it Katherine or Catherine? If I've been saying it wrong this whole time, Lord help me. Anyways, she shows up. And she lays in bed next to him, and she watches a little TV. Then she gets up, she goes and takes a shower. She gets all fresh. She puts on her black nightie. She goes and lays down in the bed with him. She kind of nudges him. She wakes him up. They have relations. They are intimate together. And then John falls asleep. The next thing you know, John wakes up to her stabbing him. She actually ended up stabbing him 37 times. But that's not all. And this is the part that's going to get really detailed as much as I can, okay? So if you are too sensitive to that type of thing, I would exit now. She stabbed John 37 times. She skinned him, and she beheaded him. Now, you guys know that she worked in a butcher place, so she knew how to do this. When John didn't show up to work the next day, of course, his coworkers were looking for him. They went to the house, they knocked on the door, they looked through the window, they thought they saw a little bit of blood or whatever, they called the cops. Now, when the police got there, you guys, they banged on the door, front door, back door, could not hear anything, could not see anything, but they saw John's vehicle was there. And so obviously somebody was there. They looked through the little mailbox slot, and they saw what looked like a red curtain hanging. So they ended up kicking in the door, front door, back door, I can't really remember, and going inside. Now, the detectives said that when they got to the front porch, it smelled good, smelled delicious. It smelled like your mother's stew cooking, was the exact words that one of the investigators saw. Like a good old pot roast. Delicious. When they went into the door, one of the cops tried to move the curtain. And when he moved the red curtain, he realized that it was wet and it was heavy. And then he had red all over his arm. So he thought he had cut himself or something like that. Come to find out that when she skinned him, you guys, and I'm going to leave links down below that's going to tell you guys know I'll always leave links, articles, and some of them are like really detailed. So be careful if you're not into that type of thing. But when she skinned him, she skinned his whole entire body, minus she left where she stabbed him in his chest previously. She left that piece attached, and then around his genitals, she cut precisely around it to leave the skin attached. They said that she skinned him so perfectly that his face and his hair, it all came off in one piece. And then she took his skin and hung it on a meat hook in their house. I have no idea why they had a meat hook in their house, but they did, okay? Precisely. Then she beheaded him. She took his head and she put it in a pot on the stove. Okay. Now, when the detectives went in, I keep going back and forth thinking about like the different things that they said, but when they went into the kitchen, they saw 2 plates made. It had squash, it had onions, it had a baked potato, it had pumpkin, it had all of these like delicious vegetables on this plate, and then it had meat and gravy, and on the 2 plates had the name tags of John's 2 children that lived there. Okay. And when they saw the pot on the stove, when they took the lid off of the pot, they saw John's head. And in the oven was cooking parts of John. Okay, so what she had actually did was cut off his buttocks meat and sliced it up, had it in the oven, had parts of that on the oven. She had other parts on the plate. The investigators found a plate that she had made that was thrown into the backyard. They weren't sure if that plate was for the dog or if that she had actually tried to eat it and then figured out that she couldn't and just like in a fit of rage just like threw it in the backyard. But she had 2 plates served up for his kids of daddies for dinner. They went in, they found the rest of his remains. It had his body, or what was left of it, sitting up in a weird position. And then they went into the room and they found Katherine lying on the bed in her black nightie with a bottle of pills, passed out. She was so passed out, it took them so long to wake her up. It's still kind of undecided or in dispute of if she was trying to take her own life or if maybe she had just taken too many pills, but we're going to get to more of my opinion on that at the end. So, of course, they arrested her. Now, Katherine didn't say a word at first. When they had her in the interrogation, she said that she didn't remember anything.
Can't remember anything.
And she tried to totally flip it and say that John was the abuser and maybe she had just flipped in a fit of rage or something like that. But they weren't buying it. People within the town went and gave testimony saying that she was planning on killing John and that she said she would get away with it because she would play crazy, and she tried to. She really did. I won't go into the whole entire court thing, you guys, but in court, she tried to play crazy. She tried to do all that, but they were not buying it. And then she ended up getting sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, or as they said it in the paperwork there over in Australia, never to be released. Okay. Now, an interesting part of this was that night that this happened, Katherine went and took $1,000 out of his account, and they never found that $1,000. Okay. So this was in 2000. $1,000 is a lot of money now. Okay. $1,000 was even more money 20 years ago. But there's so many rumors about like what she did with that $1,000. Did she bury it? Did she give it away? Like, what did she do with that $1,000? I'm telling you guys what I think. I think she was doing substances. That's why the $1,000 disappeared. I have no idea what she could do $1,000 of in one night, but that's just what I think when I see like money disappear in that amount of time and her being passed out on the bed and so coherent, and then her saying she don't remember anything. Whether she was being honest about that or not, it's a possibility she don't remember it if she was so messed up. Now, I'm not saying she was innocent. I think she was daydreaming this and planning this for a long time, but maybe wouldn't have went all the way through with it until she got intoxicated, in my personal opinion. You guys, the cops that found this crime scene, they have never been the same since. Still to this day, that was 20 years ago. Some of them had to quit right afterwards. Some of them never ate meat again. One guy said it was months before he could even put a piece of meat in his mouth. You guys got to imagine, these guys went on the porch and was like, it smells yummy. Smells like your mother's pot roast. And then to find out what it was, are you kidding me? Served up on a plate looking exactly like what you may eat it. Like, could you imagine trying to sit down in front of a plate after that? After the smell and oh my gosh, like they had to go into therapy. It was the worst thing they have ever seen, thank God, and hopefully they will ever see in their life. But you guys, they thought that the skin was removed so perfectly that they were able to reattach it to his body in one piece perfectly. Like, where is Miss Catherine, or Catherine, however you guys say her name, Catherine now? Well, she's in prison in Australia. She's in what is considered to be the meanest prison in Australia. This prison right here, this little tiny prison. She's in Western Sydney at Silverwater Correctional Institution. And you guys, she is known as Nana up in there. Nana. Okay. Nevertheless, whatever. She is very much into religion. She spends her days knitting and sewing. It is said that she is not allowed in the kitchen or allowed to cook at all in prison. She's been in there, I think, she's been locked up for 20 years now. But she's not allowed to share a cell with anybody. But she's known as the peacemaker, and everybody loves her. She's actually known as the most popular inmate that they have there. And everybody loves good old Nana, and that if they plan anything at the prison, she's the one that gets everybody involved, and she's never been in a fight, and she's never attacked anybody. Now that even more is what tells me that I believe she was on substances. I do. I'm telling you guys, I could be wrong. Now that's not an excuse, because I think in her fit of rage and her jealousy, she probably, this is just my opinion, I think while she was working at the butcher's, this is my theory, I think she probably daydreamed about like what this would be like to do this to a human. Like, wonder what it would be like if how she skinned them, wonder what it looks like. And I think she thought about this, and she probably thought about it or whatever, and had been planning it, daydreaming it over and over. And I don't know, I'm just guessing. And then I think she took that $1,000. She got so tore up that she followed through with it. And, yeah. And then tried to get away with it by pleading insanity. But then again, was she insane? Because when you think about it, what sane person could do anything like that? So there is a level of insanity, if you ask me. Does that mean that she should have gotten out or anything like that? No, absolutely not. But holy cow, you guys. People that's been in prison with Nana said that she has no contact with the outside world. So basically, everybody's written her off, her kids and everything. And if her kids ever watch this and you guys ever want to talk about it or interview or anything, email me. I doubt they do. They probably want no connection to any of this. Otherwise, they would be out speaking of it. But I'm so curious of what kind of mother she was to those kids. And I say that because John Price's kids have spoken out since then. And I saw an interview with one of his daughters who said she loved Catherine. She loved her. She thought she was so nice. And their mother actually tried to hide from them what happened. But then one of the babies saw a newspaper article and read what happened to her dad and just lost it and was hysterical. She asked her mom if it was true. Her mom said, yeah, could you imagine? Ugh. So some final thoughts that I want to talk to you guys about is, yet again, another very good telling sign for those of you guys that are in abusive relationships right now that need a sign. This is it. Again and again and again and again. Okay. So often we go back to people because we think they're going to really change this time, and not saying that people don't change. Okay. But if somebody's going to change, they're going to change on their own. They're not going to change because you come back to them. So you guys, this is not John Price's fault. I'm not blaming it on him, or victim blaming, but the continuous going back to somebody after they do all this stuff to you, you guys, we got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing that and think more highly of ourselves. Nobody, in this case, unfortunately, he knew that it was probably going to happen to him. But for the majority of it in these situations, when they end like this, people don't think that they're actually going to do this, or they would leave. Okay. If John was really, really, I think, thought that any of this would happen, I would think that he would take his kids and he would run away like her other ex-husband or boyfriend did. He just disappeared, baby. He was like, I'm going to get milk. See you never, ever, ever again. But you guys, now, it was said that Catherine, when she was in a relationship, when it was bad, but when it was good, it was magical. And when I read that, I could relate to that so much. How many of y'all can relate or have been in a relationship where, you know, it's so good when it's good, but when it's so bad, it's bad. Like that's not healthy. That's not normal. So I don't know. I just wanted to throw that in there again because I know that there's people watching this right now that need a sign. This is it. Okay, this is another one. Get it together, brothers and sisters. I love you guys. So what do y'all think? Have y'all heard about this? I had to even text my friend that lives in Australia and be like, girl, she was like, I've got the book, honey. I was like, Lord have mercy. Goodness gracious. What do y'all think about it? Tell me you guys' opinions. Don't forget, we're going to have another Nicole Kessinger video coming up. Did you guys want me to do the video on the guy that claimed that he had a relationship with Chris Watts? Anyways, I will leave those other links down below. Like I said, if you guys want to go and read. As always, my loves, please do not forget to like this video. It's a free way that you can help your girl out. And until next time, I love you guys so very much. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye. Have a good weekend. Love you guys. Bye.